AL Central Rundown. I'm Eric, and with me today are Dan, Lee, Ty, and Sam. 2 weeks from spring training, everyone's social media for their teams is going to start showing the truck going to wherever, Arizona or Florida, any day now. Ty is moving his brother, so that's why his background's a little bit different. And yeah, we're getting there. But first off, the news. I think last month I said I wish I can go a long time before I have to mention the ownership of the Twins, and we made it about 5 weeks. So that's great because it came out yesterday that Derek Falvey, the president of baseball and business for the Minnesota Twins, has mutually parted ways with the organization. 2 weeks from spring training. I don't know what you guys have for initial thoughts on this. I certainly have mine, and I'll go into them because this says mutual, and I think there is some truth to that. But I think it was especially more mutual on one side than the other. But what are your guys' quick thoughts on it?
I mean, my major takeaway from this is how does it affect this season and what's going to happen now? I think that when we approach spring training and what the Twins have going on, it's like how does this really impact at the ground level, at the player level?
Yeah, probably not. The roster's basically built. I think, and I'll talk about this in a minute. The team, the franchise's direction has been kind of aimless for the last 2 years. This doesn't necessarily help that. It could help that, but that's my initial thought. Is that just throws another wrench just as the team is supposed to report.
I got two
When I
things for
saw
you.
this news, the first thing I thought to myself was, man, the Twins front office and ownership situation is just the gift that keeps on giving. Like, man, what are we going to talk about content-wise on this podcast? Sometimes I think to myself, how are we doing this on a weekly basis? And then I remember the Twins, they just keep giving us things to talk about. So, I mean, we need like a board behind Eric that just says days without a Twins incident on it, and we just need to update that as the podcast goes week to week.
It's just going to be zero every time. So like, what's the point?
I got two things. So first off, the phrase mutually parted ways never is good. That's never a good thing. That always means, oh, there was something that happened here. And two, when I open up Reddit and I see 7 posts on the baseball subreddit all about one thing, I'm like, oh, something's going on. There is some stuff behind this. That's how a good gauge of like.
And what
when
you're
you know-
saying, it's not just like the Twins Reddit. It's like MLB. It's whatever the memes page. It's
Baseball.
separate baseball articles. Yeah, yeah.
You see that many things and like, oh, someone else tweeted it out, oh, just saw so and so in the hallway and he said, wow, couldn't believe, or something like that. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I cannot wait to see what the hell is going on here.
My immediate reaction is, having been arm's length from the Twins for all this time, and now on a weekly basis getting to hear about them and learn more about the organization, I am just continually shocked at the dysfunction that organization shows, even just in this short time frame that I've been following it. And you've done a very good job, Eric, of kind of providing some of the history and context to all this, and I appreciate that. But like, it's near Brownsian. It's not quite, but like, of all the times to have this occur at the end of the off season, after you've made all these decisions, you've basically committed to what your 40 man's going to be moving forward. Now is when this occurs. Like, could you have picked a worse? You could have. You could have picked like right before the trade deadline or something. Would probably be really bad too. But like, of all the times to make this decision, this is on the short list of worst times to do it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it just continues to reek of incompetence and dysfunction. And I hate to say that, but that's the vibe I get from all of this.
I think if
I
you were
like
to
how you
ask
said
me,
it was like, sorry.
go ahead.
I like how you said it was like almost Brownsian because no, I was thinking this is the type of shit that the Lions used to do all the time, where they just trip over themselves and make mistake after incompetent mistake, and it's
It's
just they pick
almost
the worst time to do it.
it's almost like you
They
think they're doing it on purpose. Like, when's the worst time? But they're not. Like, they're
Right.
not. But like, so many times the inopportune thing happens that you're like, "Oh, is this just by chance?"
I think
yeah,
if you
it's
would
like
have
what if we did this? Wouldn't it be funny? Like it's like they're choosing to do the wrong
Yeah.
thing all the time.
I think if you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have said at least the front office was one of the better ones in the league. Like they at least had been they had been since 2016. At that time, they had been competitive. They were like competitive every year, or at least were acquiring MLB players every year to like remain competitive. But the last, I guess, this is what Minnesotans get for having the audacity to win one playoff series in 25 years, because since 2023 the worst case scenario has happened, or at least it's leading up to the worst case scenario. And I think like when it comes to what is going on in the front office, I kind of thought this was going to be, I mean, this is going to get resolved one way or another. Like either there is still another layer of rock bottom, and that means the team is going to go to White Sox 2 years ago, or there's going to be a movie about this 10 years from now called Twins Ball, and Jeremy Zoll, who is now taking over for Derek Falvey, is going to be a folk hero in Minnesota. But I'm not going to give a history because Dan says I have ranted about the ownership and all that. But what I am going to try to do is I can see how this is mutual, but like Lee was hinting at, one side was especially more mutual than the other. I will just say, like, this mutual decision has come together in the last 2 weeks, is what they were saying on their Zoom calls, which they did separate. They did Tom Pohlad first, and then they did Falvey after. They were separate, which probably would make sense. Some people are kind of speculating into that there was some tension, and I don't even think Pohlad and Falvey were necessarily batting around that there was tension. They said that there were changes, that there was conflicts in personality, or that conflicts in management style, which is fine. I'm just going to talk. I have a couple points on just from what Tom Pohlad is walking into. His family handed him an absolute disaster to basically say, we've ran this into the ground. Hey, Tom, can you make this better, please? He's been on the job for 6 weeks as just a he's not a baseball guy. He has admitted he's not a baseball guy. But the things he is starting to say, and I'm going to pull up one quote that I'm going to reference a couple of times, that is problematic if you are Derek Falvey. And this is from Twins Daily. This is their screenshot. And this is way too much confidence. We will be competitive in 2026. Tom Pohlad, yesterday. It's possible. They have like a 20% chance, according to Fangraphs, of making the playoffs. There are worse teams that will surprise baseball and be mediocre and be competitive.
What is competitive in this situation, though? That's
I
my
think
question.
it's winning the division, and we have a segment a little bit later in the show of, because MLB Trade Rumors came out with an article asking who's actually trying to win the division, which I think they have on an annual basis. But anyway, so Tom Pohlad, we will be competitive in 2026. That's a wonderful statement to say. This is not a this is a financial situation for you, Tom, but this is not a situation where you can just trim the budget and then profit margins necessarily go up. Or the product you are going to give out is going to get better. You might make more money than you have in the previous years because you're going to claim that you've lost $500 million in debt and you had to sell off part of the team to pay off that debt. But the team is built, and this team is flawed. This team, like, I'm pretty sure they're about to call Lee to see if she can throw the 8th inning. This is a dog shit bullpen right now, and they've had underperforming offense the last couple of years, which is why they had a fire sale. If you're Derek Falvey and you're hearing that messaging from this new owner over the last 6 weeks, that's saying that we will be competitive in 2026 so confidently, even if he hasn't said that publicly until yesterday, that has to raise an alarm in your head, because that's almost, well, not unrealistic, not likely. So that's one point I'm kind of foreshadowing. So Tom Polo was also had fan morale was set to do a near contraction, like fan morale was near contraction levels when the Pohlads agreed to sell the team back in 2001. Fan morale is below like the Mendoza line, we'll call it. It's in the basement. It's pretty bad. They're pretty angry at ownership for kind of stuff that they're doing right now. And then finally, the TV contract was resolved just before this last year, but the Twins used to get $55 million from back then Main Street Sports or Fox Sports, and now with their own direct-to-consumer, they probably made about $10 million. So they're waiting for that. So they have lost revenue. They're $500 million in debt, and Tom Pohlad has a customer base that is angry at his family's name. Not great to inherit on your first day going. Now let's talk about this from Derek Falvey, and this is where most of my points will come in. Since 2023, where he, again, had the audacity to win a singular playoff series for the first time in 25 years, he has lost $50 million in spending power since the end of that season. He then signed, and this is after, that $50 million was cut after he signed Carlos Correa, whose annual salary was $35 million, extending Buxton for $15 million, and extending Pablo Lopez for $21 million. Between those three players, that's $60 to $70 million of your payroll, and you cut $50 million from a $160 million payroll. What is he supposed to do with that? He has already constructed a roster that is at 165, and you're going to cut that by a third over 2 years. Degree of difficulty is already up. So then what does Falvey have to do? He either has to sell some of those contracts, which he was able to do with 2024 or last year with Correa, or the young players that are coming up, which they had a promising group of prospects, need to pan out. Well, it turns out those prospects didn't. Royce Lewis was injured and is now ineffective, or at least, but he showed life at the end of last year. Edouard Julien is now with the Colorado Rockies, which is news I'm not even really going to be able to cover today because we have to talk about how the GM is no longer with the franchise. He's completely failed out. Zebby Matthews has not looked impressive. Louis Varland, who looked bad as a starting relief pitcher, or as a starting pitcher, was then traded at the deadline. They've basically had an entire generation of prospects that have washed out. Or not washed out. Matt Wallner is probably the best of that crop. And Matt Wallner is a good player, but he's a platoon crappy defending right fielder. That's it. So Falvey then chose that he could either trade some of those plays around just to flip around the core. He didn't, and 2024 happened. The team collapses. Goes in 2025, payroll's cut a little bit more again, goes down to about $130 million. After the team collapses in 2024, the Pohlads put up the team for sale. About a month after that, they promote Falvey to president of baseball and business operations, which seems a really weird time to promote someone knowing that a new guy is going to come in and is probably going to want his own people. Now, maybe they were doing Falvey a favor and thinking, hey, let's put it on your resume, guy, and some other team will get that for you. That could be. Or maybe the new owner likes you. He wants to keep stuff in set for a while, and then he can make his decision from there. Dave St. Peter, who had been with the Twins since 1996, who's the guy Falvey was replacing, was supposed to step down in Q1 of 2025. And he did, except for he was in target field an awful lot. Kind of like he still had the Pohlad's ear most of the season. Whatever. Now, that's speculation, but it does seem like Falvey was at least pushed toward or was given a very green light for the fire sale at during the trade deadline last year. Not only to just trade away the impending free agents, but if you can get rid of a Correa, that's great. But Joe Pohlad at the time kind of also hinted that any money you save up, you will be able to reinvest into the team. Great. He blows up the team, which was probably needed anyway, as much as the bitter pill needed to happen. I think that was even kind of the response on the show was it's probably about the time for the Twins to, because it's not working, it's time for them to retool whatever they wanted to do. Falvey then ends the season. The Pohlads pull the team from the market. So now Falvey goes from maybe not having a new owner, selling at the trade deadline, going to keep the same family, except for a month after they pulled the team off them, or 2 months after the team pulls off the market. He doesn't know what his budget is for the off season. He doesn't get that until like the very last week of November. So happy Thanksgiving. You don't have the money you traded Carlos Correa away. You cannot now reinvest that money into the team, or at least to the category where you can't go up to 130. We might give you 110. So here's your $15 million. Go buy yourself a Josh Bell or something. After he gets the budget, it's then they then switch Pohlads. Now, Joe Pohlad seems like a nice dude. Like a genuinely nice person. Not a great owner, especially like for the stuff that we just talked about. Falvey and Joe had a very close relationship, as in like their management style was similar. They were very people driven. They could interact with people. That's what they enjoyed. When Tom is brought in, Tom is not necessarily that people person, and that's not a negative. Like that is probably needed. Whatever Joe was doing with this franchise was not working and was continuing not to work. It is not a bad idea to have a new voice in the room, especially if you have someone in your family who has made other parts of your family's business successful. And now the most important business thing in your family's portfolio, the crown jewel, you probably want to have the successful guy in the biggest operation you have. But it turns out they just didn't necessarily mesh. So Joe gets pushed out to his brother. Tom is more business related. And then this is what I love about social media. So like this is me. This isn't a scoop. But on Blue Sky, I follow Matthew Leach. And Matthew is actually really good at responding back to fans. So he gave a quick question. And he asked, or my very quick so it shows up on the screen. Matthew Leach skeeted, I guess. My very quick, oversimplified, and is now underinformed view is that the role of Falvey was moved into last year became somewhat redundant the way Tom Pohlad intends to run the team. That's fine. That's Tom Pohlad's prerogative. I asked Matthew Leach, does your quick, oversimplified view mean that Tom Pohlad will be more involved in the baseball side than previous Pohlads? To which Matthew responds, that has been his stated intent, yes. Well, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Dan, when you talk about the Dolans and why you're not so hard at them, what's like the number one thing you say? What do the Dolans do?
They hire really smart baseball people and they get the heck out of the way.
This doesn't sound like that. This sounds like Tom Pohlad, admittedly not a baseball guy, is going to now have his fingers in the baseball side. That's not great. Maybe that's going to be brilliant. Maybe Tom Pohlad is a savant and he's going to be able to just pull whatever.
That's scary to me.
Sounds like you don't have confidence in that, Eric.
You just added to the dysfunction with that. I could, as you were talking, Eric, I was thinking about like, okay, maybe the situation here was Falvey he was supposed to get us through the off season. We'll get through the off season, and then we can go ahead and we can kind of cut bait and start fresh because we have a new ownership person that's in charge of this thing. But you would think that would then in turn become a search for a president of baseball operations,
right.
Somebody to be in charge of the base. No, they're not doing that. It sounds like Mr. Pohlad is going to be heavily involved, and Jeremy Zoll, who was there already, is going to be also making this. So they haven't done any of that. They just got rid of Falvey.
Well, Falvey, I do think it was Falvey that said, hey, I don't think this is going to work. I think Falvey is the one that initiated that conversation. over all what I just listed, what part of Derek Falvey's job sounds fun in my last 5-minute rant? That sounds like an
None of
absolute disaster to deal with that family with that amount of resource. Like, I can't even, the amount of change. You're the president of baseball and business, but your predecessor is going to kind of be there the entire time. And now the new owner, which by the way is again his prerogative. If he wants, he can run the team however he would like. But that isn't what Derek Falvey signed up for. At what point do you just say, I'm just done. I just need to leave this. This is not going to work. Who's going to blame him for that? So I will circle back with, I think the final straw was again this quote. Because, which is again, it's just Tom Pohlad saying that, as soon as it pulls up here, come on now, that we will be competitive in 2026. If I'm Derek Falvey, I'm thinking, oh, this mother effer is going to throw me under the bus once this goes south at the end of the year.
That's a good point.
I'm jumping ship.
The
Now-
real quote should be, "We will be competitive for 4th place," because that's really, I mean, really, that's where the Twins are realistically at. Like,
Yes.
no,
This is
they're
down the
not-
list. But like, I wonder how Derek Shelton feels seeing that.
Well,
I'm gonna do what now? This team.
well, think of the turnover. So in the last 15 months, Derek Falvey yesterday, Joe Pohlad, Rocco Baldelli was fired, Thad Levine left at the end of last year. Does anyone remember in 2022, Wes Johnson left in the middle of the season to take the LSU job? Now that's because LSU like tripled his salary, so like that in itself was weird. But in the last 15 months, they've seen the entire leadership change, except for the last name of the owner. Everyone else is gone.
So, Eric, my question is this the last thing? Is this the last move, or is there more to still happen
Do you mean like a player acquisition?
in terms
or-
of the front office?
Well, I mean, Jeremy Zoll has a hell of a challenge for himself. Now, he has helped build, like, he's been kind of groomed under Falvey the last, like, 2 years. But Falvey was calling the shots. This isn't Jeremy Zoll's roster.
And if you didn't like Falvey, are you gonna like the guy he groomed? Why would you like the guy he groomed? Why are we not looking outside the organization for something that if we don't like what we currently have?
Well, he doesn't have a choice right now. That's the reality. Like, he said that he has full confidence in Jeremy running the baseball side. Well, yeah, because, like, who else is going to do it right now?
Because the time. Yeah, I get it.
And, like, Falvey, I think, does deserve criticism because, like, regardless of the budget being cut and he just got kneecapped because of a budget restraint, he still could have traded a Royce Lewis or a Joe. He could have swapped around the core some of the underperforming players, and he could have moved around the rosters. He also did put in place the player development people who maybe it was incredibly bad luck that an entire generation wiped out last year, but it doesn't seem likely, you know? So I don't know. Falvey definitely deserves criticism, but I don't believe he was the problem. Every year, the Pohlads were like, hey, let's see if you can take this. Do you thought last year was a challenge? Let's cut that payroll again. Also, new Pohlad. Let's just try that out. So,
Can I ask you a question, Eric? And this is kind of a small assumption on my part. Is change something that Twins fans have been wanting?
I don't think any more than any other franchise. There are people that certainly thought Falvey should have been fired, just like they thought Rocco Baldelli would be fired. But by the way, the third game of the season, people are going to say Derek Shelton should be fired. So did change need to happen? Yes. This way? Probably not. Because I do think Derek Falvey was a net positive for the organization. But you only get so many chances or so many subpar years before you're removed anyway. So like ultimately, and this is kind of the hope for Twins fans, is I said all of that, and it sounds like I'm very sour on Tom Pohlad, and I am over this. But the reality is this change was probably going to happen at the end of 2026. And now instead of saying Derek Falvey out, it's going to say Jeremy Zoll out. So I don't know. Was this ultimately needed to happen? Probably. And maybe this speeds it up, but also like, man, what an absolute disaster 2 weeks before spring training.
I have a analogy for you. Have you ever seen those videos of like snow avalanches with someone you'll throw like a little bit on top of this huge pile of snow and then you'll just slowly watch it all crumble and like a huge amount of snow will fall down the mountain? It feels like the trade deadline was that little bit of snow thrown on top and then just everything fell apart after that. It's just we're all just
there was a lot of snow in that trade deadline.
Well, I would just to kind of back up your, I think the snow was already rolling by the trade deadline. That snow started going downhill during the 2024 collapse. Like, because that really was the warning shot. You went and the Twins started off terribly, and then they, for that 3 month span between I think like April, no, like May 1st and like August 17th, the day of the collapse, I think they literally, during that span, had the best record in baseball. And then they just flipped a switch and they just couldn't play anymore for like 6 weeks. That was your warning sign of like something probably needs to change. But then you could also talk yourself into, it was only a crappy 6 weeks. Like, we still believe in Julien, Miranda, like Wallner, Larnick. Well, it just turns out all of those players just didn't take a step forward in the next 2 years. And now you're in the spot where you're at. But yes, Lee, I don't think you're wrong. I just think that snowball started, a little bit higher up the hill. So, I don't know. Sorry, everyone, for another As the Twins turn. Sorry, Twins fan, that this sucks. It's going to probably continue to suck.
Days of Our Twins. I was just about to say.
I was trying to think of what soap opera, As the Twins turn, whatever crappy soap opera your grandma watched in 1995. Insert Twins into that title, but I think we can probably move on. I mentioned it very briefly. The Twins traded Edouard Julien to the Rockies. I'm kind of bummed about it, but I don't think
was that Falvey's last move?
Probably.
Maybe Tom Pohlad's a big Edouard Julien fan, and that's what.
Well, if he signs on with Colorado, then yes, that was predetermined. But yeah, I mean, Julien had a really nice rookie season 2023, and then literally just stopped swinging the bat. That's where you think of not just like a patient hitter versus a passive hitter. Julien will be that example for me. He just had power. He still has potential, and also Julien, for only being like 5'11" and kind of a stick figure, he can hit the shit out of the ball. So him in Colorado could be fun.
Didn't he homer off a school last year?
Yes, a lefty.
He's like one of two lefties to ever homer off a school.
Yep.
I forgot that it was Julien, but no, I remember that home run.
I think he was one of two lefties to
home run against people just categorized in your brain or something. Do you just is that how you remember players?
We talked about it. I don't know if we talked about it on the show or before the show, but we talked about it, and that's why.
Well, I think we were streaming it is what happened, because I think we were watching whatever. So yeah, there was a couple games we were watching, and then one last Edouard Julien, and I may have said this on the show one more time, but I'll never be able to mention it again. Julien grew up in French Canada. He used French Quebec. Came to the United States not speaking any English. He spoke French. Went to, oh my goodness, I forgot. Went to school in Alabama. He learned English in Alabama, where he also just walked on the baseball team, having never played it, and ended up becoming a draft pick. Then made it to the majors. So he is a French Canadian with a slightly small Southern accent who just learned to play baseball like less than a decade ago.
That's fine.
That's kind of cool. I really wanted him to do better, but okay.
Well, maybe there's a reason he didn't.
Yeah, well,
it's because he's Canadian.
Ouch. Okay, we can move on. That's it for Twins news until, Tom Pohlad just puts the team up for sale again, which I'd probably be okay with.
They're gonna replace their. They're gonna in May. We're gonna have a segment about how they replaced their scouting director with AI.
See, it's funny you mentioned that because they cut Major League Scouts earlier this offseason, if anyone remembers that too.
Let's move on. Sorry.
Yeah. there's too many layers to this onion. Don't you make me spiral 2 weeks before spring training. This should be a happy time of year. Speaking of happy times, the White Sox, who are, I don't even think it's debatable. I think they're having the best offseason, and that's because Detroit refuses to do anything. Cleveland wants to work on the margins. The team actually acquiring players, you can debate on the quality of them, but the team actually acquiring players is Chicago. Ty, what do you know about Austin Hayes?
I know that he's realistically going to be our opening day right fielder, I assume. He's got a relatively low contract. He hasn't, I think it's been at least 2 years since he played a full season.
85 games.
85, 144 in 2023. Do I hate it? I don't. I don't hate it. I think this is if this is going to be the outfielder that we get, then it's better than what we had. There's another person in the mix to try to gain a starting job in the outfield this year. So I'm hoping that we can help get him back to that. I mean, look at 2019, 2020, even that 309 average. I mean, OPS at OPS plus of 146 in 2019.
21 games though, but I actually did want to talk on his OPS plus because he is remarkably consistent.
Yes.
If you just look, like 146, it was in 20 games, as Ty was saying, but 196 to 114 is the range. He's been sitting there his entire career with an OPS plus of 106 for his career. That, I'll take predictability. That's fine. He doesn't need to be a superstar. If you give me an above average hitter for 400, 500 plate appearances, there's a lot of value to that. Like, is that a third hitter? No, but that's seventh.
A good seventh hitter. Right, and we didn't have a good 7. So I think this is a good move. What I will say, my understanding is that he was talking to some other clubs as well, and we were the club that could give him the most playing time. That's why he picked to come here for the year. So I'm not sure if he'll make it through the entire year with us, but once again, I don't hate it.
Does this put the nail in the bed for Mike Tauchman coming back?
I refuse to answer that question.
Because what the outfield is now what a platoon between center field. I forget the two players' names.
Acuna and Baldwin in center. Left is going to be Benintendi / Baldwin, and then right field is now Hayes / Acuna / Baldwin / Hill. I don't know. It'll be. I'm excited for spring training just to see how all these guys are meshing. I think we have a lot of options. But once again, Hayes, like you look at his metrics, and it's like, is it anything to write home about? No, but once again, it's better than what we have. I'm not gonna trash the move.
I think this is really interesting. How much was the deal for Hayes? Was it $8 million?
6.
I think it's 5 + 1 with a $1 million buyout for next year.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Tauchman was going to make $4 million. I think were the estimates in ARB.
Yes.
If you look at the last 3 years for both of these players, Mike Tauchman, OPS plus over the last 3 years is 108. Austin Hayes, his OPS plus over the last 3 years is 108. The exact same.
Yeah.
We got our Mike Tauchman.
Fielding run value, Mike Tauchman, 0 over last year. Austin Hayes, 0 over last year. Presumably, the White Sox are paying $2 million more to Austin Hayes than they would have had to pay Mike Tauchman for the exact same production. The other thing I know about Hayes is that his reputation is as a platoon hitter, and he'll mash lefties, and I think his ability against righties is in question. I think the move here would have been to keep both these guys, and that's like an awesome platoon.
Which, by the way, they still can. Nobody's stopping them.
But there's also the discussion of giving him the at bats to prove is like, are you actually just a platoon guy at this point? I mean, you're 30. You know, you're getting to the backside of your career. You've shown flashes of what you could be. So are you that guy, or are you moving on?
Yeah.
So
And I have some
would-
thoughts on that when we get to the Guardians, but that's valid.
I would almost argue the pressure wouldn't be on Hayes if they bring on Talkman. It would be they're going to play Benintendi. I'm not going to say they're not, but to me, Andrew Benintendi, he doesn't have a great arm. He's a slap hitter. I'm starting to look at that contract as a sunk cost. If Talkman is just better than Benintendi, I'm just going to pay him and say I'm paying Benintendi 21 and Talkman 3, and
right,
for
Call it a day.
$24 million, I get my corner outfield.
right, and that's the thing. I mean, Benintendi won't be playing, 130 games left field. I mean, it'll be 80 maybe. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think it's a good move overall.
So, they just made another. So I think that's good on Austin Hayes. It's a good sign. It's a good signing. There's no solid player. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, I want to call out. Lee did get a point in the
Oh, that's right.
in the AL Central rundown prediction. So, one player that signed in the division. Good job, Lee.
I think he's
Which
going to
means
win.
you are leading with 4 total points and 2 total corrections.
Yep.
I want to say I had a bunch of my honorable mentions correct. Just saying, I didn't put them in my top 5, but I got one of those right.
You won our predictions last year too, didn't you?
Yeah, by like 1 point. Yeah.
No, the season total, but like that's impressive. I was
Still
like
pretty
last.
cool. Still
No, I was second to last because Oren stopped showing up after the 3rd episode, so I beat him.
Is there a casino in Toledo, Lee? Can we meet somewhere in the middle? And I promise not to bring Class A.
Oh my gosh.
Why? That would be the point. The
It'd be
reason
like his
you
perfect
bring Class
situation,
A.
right? Actually, I should bring Class A.
I was about to say,
We don't want bad PR for the
Class A
podcast.
would be
Come
like,
on.
all right, Dan, here's some money. I want you to go bet with this money, and then
But yeah, we did make another move.
Yes, you did.
Just as of today.
Well, I'm pulling that up. Talk about
Jordan Hicks and David Sandlin. So my understanding, look, you're pulling up Jordan Hicks baseball reference. So we've been a pitching lab. I wanna call out some names to everyone in this group. Shane Smith, Mike Vassell. Did you know Adrian Hauser? Did you know who they were prior to them coming to the Sox? That's my question.
Well, because Shane Smith hadn't pitched in the major leagues before.
Okay.
There's a difference between
I
getting
would
guys
have not.
at the major league level
I get
versus fixing guys who have pitched and suck.
Go ahead and finish your point, Ty, and then
My point is we are pitching lab. Bring in the guy. I mean, this was a salary dump for the Boston Red Sox. Good on them. It's here. Take this guy. You know what the realistic my realistic expectations is? We get him from point A to point B. He's now has a 4 ERA, and we just trade him back because all big pitchers that we have, we just trade to Boston anyway. So I mean, I don't understand it. I really don't. Apparently, they see something that we might not see. If we have, I don't know if you can bring up his Savant page.
Yep.
He's in the top, top percentile. I want to say it's 93 percentile for fastball velocity. So at least he has something. 92. He has something, but I don't know. I mean, with the defense that we have, I think his ERA will be lower because when things get hit, I guess I don't know the difference between the White Sox defense and Boston, but I would expect with a good defense behind him, a lot of the things get hit. What can we do with that? So I'm very interested to see what happens. I don't understand the move though.
Ty, I really got to say you're really trailblazing here by saying that a guy who had a 6.95 ERA in 2025 is going to have a lower ERA in 2026.
It's harder to get worse than that. I mean, I think that's the bright side. It's hard for him to get worse than where he already was.
yeah, I don't know about that. So we're all having fun, and I've certainly chuckled enough over the last like 5 minutes. This is I'm Ty. I'm with you. I don't understand it. He's a fastball. His FIP last year, his FIP alone was 619 last year. His strikeout per nine was 7. He's a reliever that throws 95, like up to 100 miles an hour, and he has a
Now let's
7.
remember, he did start a little bit earlier last year as well as
Mm.
the previous year.
Sure.
But still, the vast majority of his appearances last year, particularly at the end of the year with Boston, were around the bullpen.
Oh, he just bottomed out in Boston. Like the one I use expected slugging a lot with relievers just because I want to see like what their pitches are. So I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit. And like these are not the worst slugging percentages you see, but his sinker expected slug 379. That's decent. Sweeper 400, four seam 469, slider 447, and then 228 for a split. All of those are not like alarming jump off the page, but four of your 5 pitches. Sorry, 3 of your 5 pitches have a slugging percentage above 500 or expected slugging above 400. Like that is the red flag.
Yep.
And he doesn't strike people out. He doesn't really walk people either. So like I
Now,
don't.
Eric, I want to thank you for bringing up this pitch tracking. What my theory is they saw that split finger and they're like, what can we do with that? Keep in mind, there's only 72 thrown.
Right.
Are we going to do something? It expected slugging last year 310,
Yep.
so it went down. Obviously, he used it less. It's like, can we find a way to make that work? That's my theory. So
The only thing I'll say with the split, I think that could be true. I know with a lot of split finger pitchers, though, it will develop blisters, so they will stop throwing that pitch because either blisters or it messes up their hand. So, like, they might have just told him to stop throwing it for risk of injury, but I don't know that.
now the other thing with this trade is that we got David Sandlin, and from everything that I've seen, this is the reason why we made the trade. With and calling out just Jordan Hicks is here for this year and next year. I found that interesting as well. That we're taking in 2 years of the contract.
With his $8 million, with $16 million in total, $8 million a year. Which again, it's Chicago. Would that'd be a fucking disaster in Cleveland and Minnesota, but
Yeah.
it's Chicago.
Now, I want to call out with David Sandlin that it looks like he does have some potential, but when you look at like his AAA, I mean, he had a 7.61 ERA in 15 games. That's not super great to see. He went back down to AA at the end of the season last year. I'm very interested to see what they can do with Sandlin as well. But my understanding is Sandlin was the reason why they made the trade.
That's fair. I mean, time will tell. There's no like relievers are. I don't want to say unpredictable, but like who's to say Jordan Hicks doesn't just find 45 good innings next year, or just finds 3 less barrels over the year and has a good year. But we'll see. It doesn't look like a good move, but honestly, you can just cut him. I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
And at the we talk about how the White Sox have made the most moves this offseason in the AL Central. Not that all of them have been great, but keeping in mind if half of them work out, if a quarter of them work out, it's value add. I mean, we're not throwing a lot of money at it, and we're not winning the World Series this year. So what can we do to use? Do we end up flipping Hicks at the deadline?
I think what the White Sox have done a nice job of is not just relying on the young players that performed last year. They brought it like outside of Murakami, he's a true wild card. We're not going to know what he is until spring training, but
right.
I mean, that's just smart to do. Do not put all the pressure on Colson Montgomery and Teal and all of them because young players, as much I'm not a vibe or a personality guy, but that does matter. Yeah. Give a veteran that's struck out and had an 0 for 18 streak or whatever it is, like somebody who struggled before, and let them coach through it. But
well, and the one other point I'd like to call out is, and I don't know how often this happens on their teams, but I love the approach they're taking where you are not guaranteed, let's say Mydroff, you're not guaranteed second base. Acuna might get it from you. You need to earn this. And I love that message, and it really fits. I'm sure it fits a lot of our teams, but it really fits here in Chicago on the South Side as well. Hi,
Hey,
hi,
Ty.
Sam.
Hey, I just want to let you know every team has that message.
Okay,
It's
I
true.
mean, is anybody going to
you
Bobby
have the
Witt
guys
and
to back it up,
saying,
though. That's my question.
Bobby Witt, you have to earn the shortstop position in spring training? I don't think every team has that message all the
I don't
time.
think it does.
I
It
don't.
I
depends on the
think,
player.
okay, every team has that message to some extent.
Okay.
Yes, there's going to be some players who are just plug and play. But here's the thing, Ty. Murakami he's got a spot on the team. Well,
Right.
whatever spot that is, he's got a spot on the team for 2 years. So they're going to play him.
Not
Team
every
says,
position is. I completely
There's
understand,
position.
Sam. Yeah.
I mean, there's always what's that famous Jimmy Johnson story where he sees a underperforming defensive lineman sleeping in the back of film and he like cuts him from the team automatically. And as he's walking back up to the projector, he shakes a player on the shoulder and says, "Wake up, Emmett." It's the same. It's the same thing for everyone. Like the Twins are not going to cut Byron Buxton because he shows up a day late. Like he's going to be a starter. Jose Ramirez will be a starter, but for all of those players, there's still positions to be had and fought for.
Yep.
I would make the argument that part of what makes the Guardians organization as good as it is you don't have to worry about Ramirez falling asleep in a meeting in the first place. But
Right.
that's a whole other thing. And I'd probably venture to say the same about Witt. I don't know as much about his work ethic, but I have to imagine for him to get where he has, it's strong.
I pictured a fur coat and a lady on each arm. That's how I picture Bobby Witt walking into Kaufman.
And if I could make one final comment on the whole fighting for a position thing, I think what's important to call out is that for the White Sox, it really hasn't always been this way. It's been, hey, Jimenez is going to play left field and DH no matter what. You know, even if he's batting 200, has an OPS of 80 or OPS plus of 80, like that's the difference to me is that you actually have the depth now to call out. Like, once we can send you down to AAA because we don't need you right now. We can always bring you back up later, and that I think that's different for us here on the South Side. So,
Okay. Well, that's it for player acquisitions for the week. We're 2 weeks out from spring training, so that's not necessarily surprising. But the rest are just kind of quick notes. So one thing I thought that was kind of interesting. We're moving on to Cleveland. Is that the money that Jose Ramirez just signed a new contract extension, but he ended up taking a pay cut. That Cleveland isn't necessarily as immediately flexible with money this offseason. So Dan, is that true? What do you know? Is there any truth to that? And if so, what's the speculation? I guess?
Yes. So first and foremost, the actual announcement for Jose Ramirez's extension occurred this week. There was a press conference on Thursday, which I think was really interesting. There's a couple other elements that I'm gonna get into here momentarily, but let's talk about the deferments first. Uh, there's $10 million each year for the next 7 years that's going to be deferred to Jose Ramirez as part of this restructuring his contract. He's making 25 million a year in total. 10 million of that is deferred every year. The thought was, okay, well that creates 10 million in flexibility, right? That's how that works. That's not how that works. It turns out that when you defer payments to a player like this, you can't just like pocket the $10 million until the contract's over and then you can give it to him at the end. That's not, you have to be able to basically prove that have that means to pay that out down the line. And that, from my understanding, there's two different ways you can kind of do this. One is you can put money in a high yield interest rate account, and so that it builds up to be 10 million when it's time for it to mature and be paid out to the player. The other is you put 10 million in now, and you let the interest grow on that, and then you like get some money back. You pay him 10 million, and then you get some money back that you can have at that point in time. Point being, if the Guardians go with option number one and decide to try to like save some money, you'd still have to put 6 million in a high interest rate account today anyway. So what you're really talking about saving is $4 million. And hey, I'd be happy to find $4 million, but in terms of providing budget flexibility to go out and sign baseball players, we're not talking about gobs and gobs of money that you're suddenly going to be able to go out and sign Framber Valdez or something. So that question was directly asked to President of Baseball Operations Chris Antonetti during the press conference, and he was unequivocal. Like, it was a clear message. Like, no, this isn't going to help our flexibility. He didn't get into the details of it in that point in time, but I've read things, heard things on podcasts and things to kind of explain that answer, and that's the explanation. Um, Moving off of that, there is just a couple other things that like I said, I thought were interesting that came up. First and foremost, Jose was Jose. He was very good in this, in that, his message was just very basic. He really enjoys playing in Cleveland, obviously. He wants to end his career here. And there was a lot of focus on like teaching young players and being involved in with the youth movement here, which is something obviously he's going to have to be committed to because that's the way the direction of the team. But he's on board is the point, and that was the clear message: is that there is no rift here. I am entirely on board with the organization. Um, Moving off of that, I want to find there was one thing in particular that I thought was interesting. If I can find it real quick, but in regards to um, the lack of additions to the offense this year, Antonetti had a very interesting answer to that. And the basic idea of it, I'm having trouble finding the direct quote, so I'm going to stop looking for it, is that the thing that was interesting was he directly said, like, we at this point think that our young players provide us the best opportunity to get better. He directly said this offense was not good enough last year. That was what he said. But we think the best way to improve at this point is to play our young talent. He also said, though, that we have made offers to free agents this winter that were competitive, that were similar to, if not the same as, other offers that were handed out to this player or players. And the thing that was the difference between us getting that player and somebody else was playing time. So when I hear Ty say that Austin Hayes went to Chicago because he was going to be able to play every day, I wonder if the Guardians had made an offer to Austin Hayes. When I see Lane Thomas, who has a past with the organization, go to the Royals, I'm presuming that Lane Thomas was offered more playing time in Kansas City than he would have in Cleveland. Because, I don't want to fault Chris Antonetti for being transparent. I think that's technically, typically a valuable thing for a leader to be. But if he's going into these free agent meetings saying, we really like our young guys, you're probably going to be a platoon bat, you're not going to play every day, you're not pricing yourself out. You're hurting your odds at bringing a ball player in when you do that, I guess. And so I agree with what Antonetti. I don't think he's fibbing. I don't think he's making up a story. I think there were probably. I wonder if maybe Adolis Garcia was another guy that would fit that bill. Outfielder, gonna go probably play every day for Philadelphia. Didn't get paid super well. I could just see it. Plausible players out there that, we really like Chase DeLauder. We want him to play as much as possible. We really like George Valera. We want him to play. We don't want to stunt these guys' development because we signed a guy for $8 million who was going to play right field for a year. So I see that both ways. I think it's a logical answer. I do still question if this offense is going to be good enough, especially with the health of guys like Valera and DeLauder. I get it.
I'm gonna
Go ahead.
I'm gonna push back a little bit on that, just because I've seen it now. Granted, my franchise is in free fall right now, but I have heard those exact arguments made about the Twins so many times. We've made competitive offers. We offered X player $100 million. Well, the team that won bid $50 million more plus another year. So, like, that's a competitive offer in your mind. But were you even considered as an actual contender for this player to actually pick up? So, like, I'm sure they gave in what they believe to be a good offer to whichever player. I also don't know what player that they've been linked to in the offseason. So, like, I don't remember. And, like, part of me thinks, like, they're never going to say the players, but, like, part of me speculates that might just be a kind of a deflection, that there's this mysterious player that they've made an offer to when they haven't been tied to any like play. But like whatever, that's my own speculation. I can get over that. I guess what also kind of bothers me about that too is like we're gonna play the young guys. And I'm not saying that can't be a viable strategy. Cleveland has made a living off of playing the young guys, and they're going incredibly well because they're very good at what they do. But all that means is we don't have to spend money on other players because we have these young guys that are going to perform maybe near as well. But if they don't, oh well, kind of thing. So, like, I think I know Dan, you just said this in your last point where I would prefer to pay someone $8 million to go stand in right field because there's a floor. The young player can still kick him out of that spot. But at least there's, again, like what I just said with Chicago, at least there's some protection that you're not just relying on these young players and putting all that pressure on them. But Cleveland has, despite everyone's anticipation, won the division a boatload of times when everyone has written them off. So it's clearly working for them, but it just hits my ear a little bit weird, like hard when I hear we made a competitive offer and we're going to play the young guys.
My answer to that is I get where you're coming from. And quite frankly, I would feel a little bit more comfortable with this roster if it did have Austin Hayes or Lane Thomas or
Right.
Adolis Garcia as even just a platoon bat as another guy. The durability of DeLauder and Valera really scares me more than anything else.
Sure.
There's a world where those guys only play 50 games this year, and you're trying to find you have Daniel Schneemann and Angel Martinez, who are fine. I think are fine major leaguers as backups at this point, but haven't shown to be guys you can play 130 games a year and get good production. Um, so I get that. I can understand the logic of where he's coming from is all I'm trying to convey. I did find the quote, and I should have led with this. Oh well, I'm doing it now because I think the actual wording is interesting. We need to be better offensively. We were not good enough last year. Our belief is we will get better through the players in our organization. There were some players we targeted that fit a very defined role on our team, but we weren't able to get them. It wasn't a financial reason. The players we made offers to signed elsewhere for very comparable deals. Not competitive, comparable. I'm adding that. It was more about playing time because we want to give these young guys, these young players opportunities. That was the quote. There is one more thing I want to mention from this press conference, and that was Jose Ramirez's career goals. One of these is very interesting, and that's why I'm bringing it up. Jose Ramirez has 4 career goals. Number 1, be a Guardian from start to finish. Well, that looks like it's going to happen. Number 2, he wants his jersey retired, his number retired. I think that's going to happen. People are talking about statues at this point.
Yes.
He wants to make the Hall of Fame. I think we're on that track. You know, things could still go squirrely, but we're on the way. Number 4, he wants to win a World Series. This is the interesting one. Chris Antonetti, president of baseball operations for the Cleveland Guardians, I quote, "I have no doubt that he is going to reach all of these goals."
Well, it would be logically impossible for him to be a Guardian from start to finish.
Oh, look at you.
Cleveland baseball person. I don't know what to tell you, man. You know what I mean. I thought that was pretty bold of Antonetti to use that verbiage about winning a World Series. As opposed to we're going to make every effort to make this happen, or I'm going to do everything in my no. I have no doubt he is going to reach all of those goals.
Yeah.
So,
Dan, one closing question for you. As a Guardians fan, you hear the competitive offers, all of that. You hear we're going, no reason to believe we're not going to win a World Series during the time that Jose is here. Do you believe that those two things have an effect on each other? Like because you're not signing the Austin Hayes for $5 million, that you're not going to get there quicker?
I think having Austin Hayes on the team makes the percentage chance of that happening this year better. So yeah, I would say that they're linked together, in that form or fashion. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where the disappointment may come in, that like, hey, it would be nice if you went and got that one veteran that might make the team a little better, that might be someone for a kid to learn from. I don't know.
Absolutely. Or just make literally just better production. Again, I have concerns that we're going to see DeLauder play 50 games and Valera play 30 because they can't stay on the field, and we're playing Schneemann and Martinez and any other number of guys that OPS plus 90. And yeah, so um, I think adding even just one player would help attain that goal this year. I think attaining that goal this year isn't likely anyway, but the thing that'll make this most likely is for those young guys not to get hurt, develop, and we're
Right.
really, really good in 27 and 28 and 29
Well,
and so on.
and like, depending on how you feel about the MLB playoffs, I'm of the belief get to the playoffs and then it's a coin flip for everything.
Yep.
So just get hot. Like,
I'm not all the way there, but it's definitely the most variable of all the playoffs.
Right.
Like I get it.
so
Well, and if Derek Skubal wasn't there last year, like Cleveland moves on, right?
I mean, it
Okay.
certainly helps
I'm
your
just
chances. Lee, if Skubal fell off the face of the earth in September 30th, 2025, who probably would have been the other starter for Detroit in that series?
Let's see. Scribble was the first one, Myers the second, Flaherty the third. I think it'd probably be Reese Olson. And I don't think he does as good as Scribble did.
I mean,
No.
I like our chances a heck of a lot better for sure.
I think he does good, but he doesn't do as Scribble did 7.1 innings, and
right.
that's like.
To be fair, I don't think we beat Toronto anyway. Like they were not just
They
good,
were
but they were
monsters.
hot at the time. So,
No, I think that's where I kind of like no. Even if Detroit had gotten past Seattle, we don't beat Toronto. There's no way.
yeah.
We barely. I didn't think we were gonna get to Game 5 against Seattle. Like.
I have one more thing I wanted to add before we move off of Cleveland. In the same vein of like playing the young guys and what have you, ESPN, I actually really like their prospect rate. They did their top 100 this past week. I like theirs. They give you like a one sentence blurb that like describes the player, and I really like that. Anyway, that's beside the point. The other reason I really like them is they rated the Guardians organization as the second best farm system in the league. They had 7 top 100 prospects, 2 of which weren't on the MLB list. Braylon Doty and Cal Steven, both pitchers. Steven we got in the trade for Shane Bieber last year. No Cooper Ingle on this list, but I just wanted to acknowledge that ESPN, I think it's Kylie McDaniel who wrote that, really likes the Guardians org. So it's at least one person that thinks we should play the young guys, it seems like.
All right. I think we'll move on. The Royals had, I guess it's not an acquisition, but it's Vinny Pasquantino avoided arbitration. So that's great. He doesn't need to hear about why his team thinks he's the worst person on earth in order to pay him less money. So
Yeah, exactly.
here's the value. Lee, how's that going for Scooble? Still going to trial?
I don't know.
I have a whole thing about Tarek Skubal's arbitration that I'll save for later. But for now, Vinny signed a 2-year, $11 million deal. Looks like the deal's kind of backloaded on the second year, about $6.5 million for the second year of the deal. Takes care of 2 years of arbitration for Vinny. I think most Royals fans were probably hoping for this, or at the very least expecting this. I think we can expect to see, depending on how this next season goes for Vinny, perhaps a long-term extension or longer-term extension. Vinny has been a cornerstone of the team for a couple years now. Finally had a fully healthy season in 2025. Vinny is not an MVP level player, I don't think, but I think most of us would agree that he could definitely be an all-star level player or something along those lines. So, yeah, happy to see Vinny on the team for 2 years, and happy to see that we're not going to go to arbitration with the guy. So, yeah, I mean a good little deal to avoid that, and outside of that, pretty quiet for the Royals, other than continued stadium rumblings.
I was gonna ask because it's his first year of arbitration, and they signed a 2-year. So they just did cost certainty. They just probably projected what his arbitration number will be for next year if he has a good year.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like first baseman, that not many first basemen get to that 6 year of arbitration, just because you can find by the time they get somewhat expensive, you can probably find that on the free agent market for a Josh Bell for $7 million would be equivalent to what maybe a Vinny Pasquantino could do, who would be making 12. But I did think that was interesting that it wasn't a 2-year deal. And I was going to ask you, Sam, before you said, like, what are the chances of him signing an extension past his final year of arbitration? Like 75? Don't say 50. That's a cop out.
I would say it's probably somewhere around the 70s number that you put out there, Eric. Like I said, I think he's been such a sort of face of the team over the last couple of years, and he's a type of guy who goes on Twitter and interacts with fans. He goes on Cody and Gold every week during the NFL season and is the NFL insider for the weekly on local radio in Kansas City. You know, he is in commercials. He was on First Things. You know, he's done a lot of national media, and obviously there's a kind of Nick Wright element to all of this because he was on First Things First. But I think that he has really been a face of the team. And when you have someone who's the face of the team, you want to hold on to that guy.
Right.
Whereas, you know, we all know about Bobby Witt Jr., but Bobby Witt Jr. is not as much of a
Media presence.
Personality.
he's not as much of a put myself out there type of guy as Vinny is. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really kind of it. Good for Pasquantino. He knows he's going to get at least what, $15 million, what, $12 million or something like that, whatever the
Yeah.
deal ends up being. So, not a bad little piece of business. Good for him. And then Detroit. We were going to talk about this MLB trade rumors. I think makes this article every year. But the MLB Trade Rumors made an article that said, is anyone trying to win the AL Central? Well, we've gone an hour into the show, and we're already going and we need to talk about the top 10 to 1 to finish our list from last year. So we're going to table that. I put that specifically for Detroit because they have done nothing.
Jack and shit.
They have offered out qualifying offers, and I'm pretty sure locked the door and pulled the phones out the wall since
No,
then.
I'm pretty sure they're still going to get one starting pitcher. That's kind of it's really looking good for Lucas Giolito at this point. Heyman was on, I forget what show, but he talked about the Tigers a bit. They're really he said that Lucas Giolito is like his favorite for Detroit. I really think they're going to get another starting pitcher. I mean, because at the end of the day, you can't have too much pitching, and also entering 2027 offseason, we are going to be losing 3 starting pitchers off our rotation to free agency. It's not a bad idea to get one starting pitcher for a couple of years now, so you're not, next year not trying to get 3 new pitchers to your rotation. So I really think that's going to be it. The latest thing is that Eugenio Suarez signed with the Reds for 1 year, $15 million, and now everyone's angry about that. Because, why did we give him $15 million? We signed Alex Cobb for $15 million, and he did nothing.
Which is honestly a fair point. If the answer, because if they don't sign Giolito, or like a Giolito type, I think that's going to be a very honest criticism. But
the off season's not over. We still, I don't think they're going to go out and get a bat anytime soon, but starting pitching, they could. They didn't sign Flaherty last year until mid-February.
Right.
So, yeah.
So,
they're not going to trade Skubal. I think that's pretty clear at this point. There was some more stuff about how the Mets are thinking that it would take McLean plus some guys, and the Yankees said it would take half the team. I think they're keeping it open as a he's not for sale, but if you're stupid enough to give us half your team for him, then sure, we'll take half the team.
Mm-hmm.
Type of a deal. So I
With
mean, that's
that
pretty
all-
much it.
With all that being said, like, does it surprise anyone else how many people are still on the market that we're still waiting for signings to happen? Especially when you talk about the Giolito, the Valdez. I mean, even like Hoskins, Azuna. I don't know. It's interesting.
I'm not
I'm not
surprised
surprised
Valdez is still on the market.
Well,
No.
with all everything that's come out about him, correct?
Yeah, he kind of sent a 20-minute video to all the teams of like, here, I'm such a team player. This is why I'm such a nice guy. So
Yeah, well,
That's
what if you need to pull up one video of you hitting your catcher in the chest because you gave up a grand slam? I don't need your 20-minute video. I have a 20-second clip that I'm good.
yeah,
But I guess
I think a lot of it.
Ty, ask that question next week, and then I'll be surprised. I feel like this is the week that's all going to get sorted because now, again, social
Everybody's
medias are
gone, yeah.
going to start sending out truck pics.
Oh, Guardians truck left last Thursday, actually.
Dang it! We've already missed it.
I don't know about anybody else's, but ours left.
Nope, just Derek Falvey's car leaving the parking lot. Okay, Lee. Any other news?
I mean, that's it. It's just people complaining. People are complaining. People are more focused on complaining
Usual.
about the Red Wings right now in order to really complain about the Tigers at the moment. So we'll check back in a week if Lucas Giolito signs somewhere else, and then
Yeah.
just the usual.
Okay, well that's all of the news. Last week we started our top 25 AL Central players right now list, and it was very pitcher heavy, which surprised me a lot. The entire Kansas City starting rotation, which surprised me even more. And now we have 10-1. So with that, I'm closing my laptop, and Ty, it's all yours.
Alrighty. So, at rank number 10, as we went through last week, I'm going to give a couple names of who was ranked here, and then we'll go and talk about 10. I feel like there's going to be a little bit more discussion here this week regarding placement. I think we were, overall, it was interesting for me for 25 to 11. I feel like where we felt there was discussion, everyone was still pretty much aligned that it's like, okay, this guy deserves to be approximately in this spot. So very interested to see what happens this week. For the top 10 spot, for rank number 10, we had votes for Stephen Kwan, Michael Waka, Colson Montgomery again.
Michael Waka? Which
hey.
one of you sadistic effers put Michael Waka at 10?
Eric.
It wasn't me.
Dan!
So here we go with rank number 10. Lee, talk to me about Kerry Carpenter, and does he deserve the number 10 spot?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I had put him at 11, so I mean, yeah, this works for me. Dan, I see you shaking your head. I feel like you
So
disagree greatly.
I'm about to make everybody even more mad at me and maybe ruin my credibility here. Kerry Carpenter wasn't on my list.
Ooh.
Generally, if somebody is going to be one of the better players in a division, they need to be able to catch the ball occasionally. And Kerry Carpenter isn't very good at that, in my
Called
opinion.
out. Wow.
I stand
He
by
does
the
catch
fact
the
that
ball very occasionally. That's the key. You said occasionally.
I-
He does occasionally catch the ball.
I do I'm on record on this podcast as saying he's one of the most dangerous hitters in this division, maybe the league. He's one of the scariest guys to have up at the end of a game. But I went way more towards you got to be a well-rounded player on this, so he didn't make my list at all. So I'm done.
I don't know.
I
His
kind
pass above
shut him
average
off.
is only -3. I've seen way worse
I've
than
seen
that.
way worse, 100%.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't play
I
out there
think
very
being
much.
I was
one
about
of
to
the
say,
most
there was a
dangerous
cumulative stat,
hitters
too.
I think being one of the most dangerous hitters in there makes you put. Are you going to say there's no one who's a DH is going to be any good because they don't play the field at all? I mean, if
It
someone hits very well, then they're a valuable player.
I'm not going to just not include somebody by virtue of them being a DH, but it does hurt their case.
Okay. I do want to
But-
call out that with MLB's top 100 players right now, this was the last
was on
player above 80 that we had not called out. We had already seen Colson Montgomery, Reagans, and Pasquantino. So Carpenter came in at 94th on their list. So just an interesting side bit there.
I jumped in and Lee didn't get to talk about how great Carrie Carpenter is, so she should do that. Like, sorry.
I've said before about I've talked a bit before about how Kerry Carpenter was so valuable, so I'll keep it a little bit short. Kerry Carpenter for a little while was the third best left-handed hitter against right-handed bats. He was behind Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto in terms of just OPS against right-handed bats, because he has the incredible just strength. It's just he can hit the ball hard and he can hit the ball far. I mean, that's pretty much it what he does. I mean, yeah, he changes the game by being on the bench because he forces other managers to have to play the relievers around him. You want to put in a right-handed reliever against like Gleyber Torres or Spencer Torkelson. Well, Kerry Carpenter is sitting on the bench waiting for that right-handed hitter to come in the game. So, I mean, yeah, he's just, 26 home runs last year in, what was it, 120 games, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, his only issue was that his injury, but, if he stays on the field, I mean, he's going to hit 30 home runs in a full season at some point. It's just, I mean, yeah.
So for me, him being 28, I don't know if he's 28 going to age 29 season, but has he shown you the best he can be, or is there still something there?
I think there's still something there. He was a bit of a late bloomer. He didn't debut until 2022, so he was already like what 25.
25.
Doing my math right, and yeah, like I said about the injuries. I mean, you get a full season out of him. Yeah, who knows what he can do? Just last year, a lot of his stats are depleted because he was playing for a month with one hamstring. And he's one of the only players who's been able to perform consistently in the playoffs for us, which is huge. I mean, if you small sample size or whatever, but he's been there. I mean, he's one of those guys who's just, you have to circle him in big red marker on your lineup card when you're preparing for a game.
Got it. No, I will say I also didn't have him in my top 25 actually. And I think it kind of just goes back to, you see those games played was huge for me. And seeing that inconsistency in 2024, like, can he continue to push forward as he ages? That's my question, is how does his his game style, how does that age with him?
So I disagree with you and Dan, but if the question was top hitters in the division, where would you place him, or would he still not make the list?
Oh, top hitters, I'd 100% make the list. But
like,
he's definitely
overall,
on that list.
right?
Yeah, top, like, this guy's. It's it's the ninth inning, whatever. Who do you not want to face, or like just pure best hitter, however you want to measure it.
Yeah.
In the
He'd
division,
be third on that list for me.
Third?
I think so.
Behind
fourth.
J-Ram and who else?
Witt and Buxton.
Oh, okay.
I would put
There
him
you go.
on.
I'd almost
That's
put
it.
Quan just because the stupid contact ability.
That's a good point.
No, but you can. I mean, you can get him to pop up. He'll just hit a single. I mean, there's not like as much of the home run power that you're concerned about with Quan.
Yeah. No.
All right, so that brings us to our rank number 9. At 9, we had votes for Bubic, Green, Reagans, Carpenter, and Williams. And with the AL Central rundown, rank number 9, we have Gavin Williams. Dan, any thoughts?
I am completely blindsided by this. I didn't expect Gavin Williams to be on this list at all, let alone be on 9th. Not much of a ringing endorsement on my part, is it? Gavin Williams had a really, really good second half last year and has the potential to be a staff ace moving forward. So I can see this being more erring on the side of what Gavin Williams could be. This is ultimately the best 25 players right now. So I get it. He was the number one going into the playoffs this past year. So He's also got really good stuff. He's got the best stuff of anybody in the Guardians rotation, and that's obviously a pretty well decorated group of players. So um, I will mention, since I alluded to his second half this past year, 2.18 ERA in the second half in 70 innings. So
Mhm.
I get it, but I am a little bit surprised.
I
This
will say I did have him. I want to say number 6. For me, it's huge to see that 26 age with the season he had last
Mhm.
year. It to me, it's okay. Like especially looking at his baseball savant page, like seeing that breaking run value and extension, like that's not things that every pitcher has. So I think he continues to kind of like feed off of that.
Yeah,
It's funny you mentioned.
I had
Go
him
ahead, Lee.
9 on my list. I think he's a dark horse. Like, oh, he could be a Cy Young candidate next year. If you want to go for those 1 in 10,000 odds or whatever. I don't know how betting works. But like I think he's one of those guys who's like gonna come where everyone else who doesn't pay attention to the Guardians can be like, whoa, where did he come from? But like I think he's one of those guys that's gonna be huge next year.
And I would be doing a disservice if I didn't ask. Does anyone disagree with Gavin Williams being in the top 10?
I do actually, because I didn't have him on my list, but
Okay.
um, but I see the argument for it. I do think that I'm hoping he figured that the stuff has always been really good. Early in the year last year, there were a lot of deep counts, there were a lot of walks, there were a lot of not being able to put guys away, and I'm hoping that would occur. I think he led the league in innings per pitch at one point in time.
Mm.
Or I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Pitches per inning, rather. Um, I think that, if he's kind of harnessed it, then I think things you guys are talking about, where he's maybe the second best pitcher in the division, are plausible.
Okay. Any other comments on Gavin Williams before we move to rank number 8?
I debated whether or not to have him in my top players, but I do agree with this.
Okay. All right. Number 8. Apparently, I didn't have a screen for it. We do have Riley Green. There were votes for Cameron, Ryan, Garcia, another for Green, another for Bubick. But we did have Riley Green. Lee, thoughts on Riley?
Yep, he's a really good player.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what else you want me to say, man. I don't know. He had 36 home runs last year. He's been an all-star the past 2 years. I mean, everyone talks about the strikeouts so much, but he hit 36 home runs. He slugged 806, right? He's still only 25. He was going into his 25 season this year. He's going to be continuing to get better. Yeah, his defense is, questionable just because of like his speed issues, but like he came up as a really good defensive center fielder. It's still there. It's just a matter of like mechanics or whatever. But yeah, he's going to continue to be a good all-around hitter. He's not just hits home runs, but he hits doubles and singles and home runs. I don't know what else to add to that. I think he should be higher, honestly, but I don't want to. I'm not really in the mood to fight people.
Does anyone disagree with top 10 for Riley Green?
No, I mean he's a great hitter who plays an above average left field. Now left field in itself is not the most, demanding defensive position, but there's no reason for him not to be. If anyone like outside of Scooble, Riley Green is their best player, is he not? Is that fairly controversial to say?
No, I think that's right. Did he start the All-Star game last year?
Yeah, he started it this year. He started it in 2025. In
Yeah.
2024, he was good enough to be a starter, but he didn't get enough fan votes because the Tigers kind of sucked.
And compared to Carpenter, Dan, he does have that one outs above average. So, I'm just saying. Okay, so we'll move on from Green. We have at rank number 7, Stephen Kwan. Dan, is 7 right for him?
I nailed this. I had him at 7. So the duality of man here. Completely didn't have Williams at all. Had Quan exactly where he was supposed to be. 7. I mean, Gold Glove caliber left fielder, Platinum Glove award winner, I believe, at one point in time. I might be wrong on that. I might be confusing with Jimenez. But anyway, best defensive left fielder in the sport, as Eric was alluding to a minute ago. It's not necessarily the most taxing outfield position, but it's something that's incredibly dependable. And then along with that, he had a down year offensively, but was a league average by OPS plus bat still. So even at his lowest, you're getting, plus defense and then uh average hitting at worst. And anything beyond that's gravy. But I think, the type of player that Quan is really sticks out to people as well. And I think just makes him more prominent, makes him better thought of to a point, just that you don't see as many contact hitters anymore, pure contact hitters, and he's
Well, that had the
definitely doing
defensive
that.
ability too. I mean, you think about Luis
Yeah,
Ariz. Like, yeah, sure, he has the hit tool, but he's a liability on defense. So Quan has both, and that's just not the standard.
1,000%, yes. And the one thing I'll also add on defensively is really good arm. I believe, I don't know if it was at the end of the year, but he led the league in outfield assists for most of the year last year. And
Hmm.
he doesn't have that strong of an arm. What he does have is a quick release, and he's very decisive with where to throw the baseball immediately. So it's almost like that. There's no lost time between receiving the ball and getting it out. I think that makes a world of difference, honestly.
Now,
But
Dan,
offensively, yes.
I asked the same question before. Is there more to Quan than what we've seen at age 28?
Um, he could be better offensively than he was in 2025.
Okay.
I think that's partially health. I think that's partially just sticking to his good habits. He'll get into some funks where he just pulls everything to the second baseman,
Okay.
and that can be, and I think a big part of that is how pitchers pitch him. I
Hmm.
think pitchers vacillate between wanting to pound him inside and have him prove that he can hit doubles in homers, and pitching him outside and making him slap singles. And so he kind of gets caught in between sometimes.
Got it. And
Um,
just making those adjustments, right? And it seems like he
yeah,
has done that. Does
I
anyone
agree.
disagree with number 7 for Quan?
No, I had him at number 7 too, actually. I just had Green above him at 6. I am curious. Am I biased in thinking that Green is better than Quan? Am I just
Different. I
biased
think
coming
they're
out?
good in different ways, right?
I guess it depends on what part you value more, right?
I mean, I would take Green because he's 3 years younger, but other than that, that would
If
be a
I'm trying to win this year, I'm picking Quan. I want the
Interesting.
reliability. I really do.
I think.
Well,
You
Oh, go
get
ahead.
with Quan, you get
and
reliability until July or August.
I I have Quan higher than Green,
Hmm.
but I would almost more prefer to think of this in tiers, and I
Okay.
would put Quan and Green in the same tier. Like they're the same. They're very different ball players, but I think their value ends up being about the same, just
Yeah,
in
I think
different
that's
ways.
the problem is they're not good in the same way, right? It just kind of depends on
Yeah.
what part of the game you value more.
Which is funny because they're both left-handed hitting left fielders, but they're completely different in terms of how they play.
Right. Sam, you had a point to add?
Well, he
Oh,
froze.
looks like we lost him. So okay, and I do want to call out in the top. Oh, looks like Sam's back. Oh, no, he's not.
Nope.
In the MLB Network top 100 players right now, Quan did rank 75th, so that was interesting. And I did not call out. We covered Riley Green shortly ago. He was 57th on the MLB top 100. So now we'll move on to. Oh, we have Sam back. Sam, do you have a closing comment on Stephen Quan?
how about the fact that his
You're muted.
bat speed is in the first percentile and his hard hit rate is in the first percentile?
right.
That's a little
him and
concerning.
him and Arise are very similar with the batting profile. Like,
Mhm.
if everything like squared up, I think they're pretty similar for you. But like, yeah, if you're contacted, or apparently your bat speed is pretty slow.
Interesting.
Can I just say like one? This does not matter to anything, but he went to Oregon State. He was in the same lineup as Adley Rushman, Trevor Larnach, and then Quan.
Oh,
Yep.
That is a
Wow.
monster of a college lineup. Like,
They
Good
won
luck.
the College World Series, if I'm not
Yeah, they did.
mistaken.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
did.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. They didn't even need a pitcher that entire year.
All right, we're moving on to rank number 6. At 6, we had votes for Williams, Reagans, Kwan, and Green. We ended up with Michael. I probably pronounced that wrong.
Ooh.
Garcia. And this was a tie. 5th and 6th place was a tie. Sam, thoughts on Garcia ranking between 5th and 6th?
I mean, I'll tell you what, if you had told me going into 2025 that Michael Garcia would be being ranked at all in a list of top 25 players in this division, I would have been like, man, he must have had a really good season. So the
Correct.
fact that we're even talking about him in this context really shows how much of a breakout season that he had. I mean, you look at those savant numbers, and you look at like squared up percentage was in the 98th percentile. I mean, that's pretty good, and not to mention his fielding run value. He had 17 outs above average, so he came to
Playing
play
multiple
in
positions.
2025.
Like, didn't he split time between third and left field?
No, not really. At the beginning of the year, they kind of tried to mess around with that. I would really say by like mid to late May, he was just back at third base the whole time.
I do want to call out it's interesting. Looking at the run values, the batting and the fielding, I feel like he's had the best of all the players on the list. He has had the best batting run and fielding run together. So it
Mhm.
makes sense for me for him to be here. So hopefully he
Yeah.
can replicate his 2025 season.
And
Or
not enough,
somewhere close.
he broke out in a way that doesn't seem like it's a fluke. He
Mm.
doesn't
Mhm.
chase pitches. He doesn't miss pitches. He doesn't strike out, and he walks an average amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good player.
This
And
isn't this isn't a case where he like massively outpaced some very mediocre batted ball numbers, you know.
Okay. Did
I will
anyone
say
disagree?
I put him lower. I put him at 12, just because. Okay, so I kind of viewed my list as a who I think will order of how good I think there will be in 2026, and I
Mhm.
docked Garcia because this was a huge breakout year for him, and it's not in a we've been ramping up to this way. It's like this kind of came out of nowhere kind of way. Like
Interesting
like
point.
Sam was saying, no one would have expected him to be on this list this time last year. That's where I kind of docked him, just because. I mean, is it replicable, right? I mean, look at him in 2024. A 613 OPS. Like his OPS jumped like 150 points from his career average. I'm not saying I think he is going to regress, but I did dock him on my list because of
There's a case there.
is he going to continue being this good?
Fourth best player in the division by WAR last year. Don't hit the ball to the right side of the infield on the Royals because it's going to get caught.
Mhm.
And I will say, his career BABIP, I believe, is 305. Last year it was 308. So
that's encouraging.
didn't appear like he was getting lucky. At least not that
Mhm.
lucky. So I think
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a really good ball player for quite a while. And I had him fifth on my list.
Well, and I
No,
look
yeah,
at it
I mean,
this
I
way:
don't
his
disagree.
his
I'm
his
just-
floor is just being a really good fielder, right? Like
Yeah.
even if the batting does regress a little bit, he's still going to be a good fielder. So it'll be interesting to see how he does next year as well.
Yeah, I'm not a Michael Garcia hater or anything. I'm just like it was just a huge jump.
I don't think it's unreasonable to think that we'll see him take a little step back in 2026.
To defend your point, Andres Jimenez finished seventh in the MVP voting in 2022.
Right.
Great defensive player, had a really great offensive season, and hasn't replicated that offensive season ever since. I mean, and that's the other deviation you get from Michael Garcia is he's Andres Jimenez at third base.
Yeah, I mean we see this all the time. Well, players will have one year where they are MVP runners up, and get a Silver Slugger or a Gold Glove or whatever, and then they just go back to being an average player. Like Alex Avila, my favorite player, he had one season where he got like 5.5 WAR and finished and got MVP votes, and then never had a season anywhere near that good. I mean, yeah, I don't think I'm not saying that he is going to, but I am saying this year kind of came out of nowhere. We can't reliably say he's going to continue doing that. I mean, but I think he is. But
And to close out Garcia, I do want to call out that on the top 100, he was ranked 65th on the MLB Network top 100 list. So we'll move on to our tied for 5th and 6th. At 5th, we also had votes for Buxton, Garcia, Green, Garcia, and Ryan. For our tie is Joe Ryan, and I'm very curious if we can, as a team, is this really a tie, or would you take Garcia? Would you take Ryan? But we'll start with Eric. Eric, your thoughts on Ryan being tied for 5th and 6th place?
I think if Tarek Skubal wasn't in this division, I think we would know much more about Joe Ryan. Like, the team underperformed, obviously, but he was so dominant up until September and then just fell apart. He has been trending in this direction. You see, 2023 was really his rookie year, 4.51 ERA. 2024, he looked really good and then was injured for 6 weeks and got his brains beat in. And then 2025, he was fantastic until September, like I just said. His 3.42 ERA was closer, it was below 3, and he had matching. I think his FIP was underneath. He was legitimately a Cy Young contender that nobody really talked about. And I get it because Skubal won it by June, so it was really no competition. But then I was really hoping that he was going to get more consideration for it. But for being a 2-pitch pitcher, he maximizes what he does, especially when you look at his fastball velocity, which is only 94, which, by the way, when the Twins got him, it was 90. But it carries so much that it's deceptive, that it doesn't dip the way players think, that he's able to get away with a sub-velo fastball. He then added in a sinker, so he has a fastball that deceives hitter by not sinking, and then he has a fastball that deceives hitter by sinking. You can see how for only throwing really one pitch slightly different than the other, how that could be incredibly effective.
And I know that wins and losses don't really matter, but I mean, if he's on a competitive team, that number is completely different, right? The sell-off at the deadline, I know he keeps you in games no matter what, but...
Yeah, I mean, him and Pablo, that's where, any hope the Twins have this year, it's going to depend on Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan and how good they are. Because you have and then, whatever the rest of their starting pitchers. But if one of those two guys is out for a significant amount of time, season's done. There's really that's where it goes. But we'll see. This is probably his last year in Minnesota.
Does anyone have any thoughts between Ryan and Garcia being tied? Does anyone put one above the other? What's the justification on that?
I had Ryan at 5.
I would put Garcia, but I'm more position player heavy. I would put Garcia first, but I'm happy to see Joe Ryan in the conversation. That's probably where I'm at.
Anyone else?
You got to think about all the prospects that you're going to get for Joe Ryan, Eric.
Yeah, how many prospects did the Twins get back last year that I was impressed with?
1.5.
About that.
This is a different front office now. Keep that in mind.
Not really.
Okay. All right. We will move on to our rank.
Before we move off of Ryan really quick,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had Garcia higher than Ryan, just to kind of close the loop on that. But they're close. And then secondly, do you guys think Joe Ryan is the second best pitcher in the division, or is it somebody else? And I'm particularly curious of Sam's answer.
I think it's Skubal 1, Ryan 2. I think that's right.
With a big gap, right? That's the big
It's a
gap.
pretty sizable gap.
Yeah.
It's a big gap.
And then I think between 2 and 5.
I think Ryan's probably number 2. I think the more interesting question is who's the third best pitcher in the division.
What if I told you over the last 3 years, Cole Reagans was worth more WAR than Joe Ryan?
That wouldn't surprise me.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
I think Ryan's third, but it is what it is.
Interesting.
It's not that big. It's not the school size gap. I'll
Right.
say it that much.
Well, I think between like 2 and 5, just pick a name. Like
Right.
Yeah.
Ryan, Reagan's. I don't even know who you want to throw in there. Probably Bubich, Gavin Williams. Like you can throw pick one. I'd even argue Pablo Lopez, but he was like 17th or something on our list. But
So Eric, to wrap up Ryan, the question is, does he continue to close that gap between him and Scooble, or is it still going to be
No.
no?
He doesn't. Because I think we're seeing the absolute best of Joe Ryan
Which is totally fine.
and the best of Tarek. We're seeing the best of them at both times, and Scooble is in another league of ability.
Sounds good. We'll now move to rank number 4, which we had votes for Garcia, Buxton, and Buxton.
Well, hey, this one better be.
Hey!
I know this one.
So, Eric, thoughts on Buxton being our rank number 4? Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, I think when we first started this, I think my goal was to have Buxton in the top 5, and I would have been a happy man. So this checks that box. He has been so effing good for so long. It just sucks. It took until his age 32 season to basically be completely healthy for an entire year. He was on the IL for 1 or 2 things, but like to see the tools actually on the field and like to see how much fun he was having, like I'm not saying he's like Kirby Puckett-esque, but like he's so fun to watch in a way that is different from other players. All of his tools he has were at least at his peak elite just elite, really. He has a tremendous amount of power for someone who's under 200 pounds. He used to be, and is still at 32 years old, 100th percentile in sprint speed. That is up there with Bobby Witt. Now, this year is Bobby Witt probably going to be, yes, because whatever. But just to see him play and have fun, it was just that it didn't make the season great, but it did make it a whole of a lot better to watch. And then just the intangibles, like after the fire sale at the trade deadline, he and Christian Vasquez invited the team out for a dinner and basically did like, well, guys, this happened. The rest of the baseball world doesn't believe in us. We believe in us, and this is how we're going to start. Now, that didn't work out good, but at least that is a moment of leadership when that clubhouse needed it. And then for him to even go in the All-Star game, even before the fire sale, and people in Atlanta, his hometown, asking like, hey, do you think you would waive your no-trade clause? And without hesitating says, nope, I'm going to be here, not going anywhere. Now, the Twins are going to test that. And I don't want Buxton to be punished for his loyalty, but Buxton gets way too much hate for the type of person he is and the caliber of player he is in Minnesota. And I just want people to just appreciate him for what he is and not just be angry that we didn't see him in his 20s, because no one is more angry about that than Buxton.
I will say that so of the 5 people on this podcast, there was one not to rank him at number 4, and I will come out to say that was me. What worries me is once again, we say top players right now, and I have PTSD from Luis Robert. Can Buxton stay healthy as he gets older? At age 32, you mentioned the 30 sprint speed. Is that sustainable? Is he going to come out and do that in April and May? That's my question.
I will say the sprint speed will go down. Like the sprint speed is going to start falling. It should have collapsed 3 years ago. Because remember, he had I don't want to say like a serious knee injury, but his knee hampered him for 2 years, to where he had to put ice, like he had to get shots and like worked on 2 hours before the game just to DH that day. And like, this is someone who refuses to go on the IL. So I say all that. They did a procedure on his knee that's called the plica. And I would only know this because I read this article. It's like this little like gap on your kneecap that was hitting a tendon. every time he ran.
Mm.
And they shaved that down, and that fixed it. Now, that's just his knee. And then his other injuries was like he was hit in the hand or wrist and he broke his arm. Or I remember one, he missed a spring training game in like 2019 or something because he bit into a steak and broke a tooth. And like Minnesota went on fire. Like he's just had like really some like quirky, weird injuries. Now he came back from that right away. Yeah,
I just want to know how you managed that.
No question.
not a great recommendation for that steak, I don't think. But all of his injuries have been he's been hit by a pitch or yeah, or like what's interesting. He is such I don't want to say like a freak athlete, but they had to coach him to jump off of 2 feet so he doesn't like run into the wall trying to rob a home run because he has elite speed and like he's 6'2".
Yeah.
And he would just go watch Byron Buxton clips from like 2018. There was no fear except for he would crash into the wall and then he'd be out for a couple of months. So they had him jump with 2 feet so that he had to basically stop, plant, and then jump. So anyway, he was very fun to watch when he was on the field. But anyway.
And I will say that when we talk about top players right now, I feel like there's a very easy conversation or argument to be had that Garcia comes out and does better than Buxton.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I know everyone else had him at number 4. Does anyone else have anything to add about Byron Buxton as we get into our top 3 choices?
We all knew who the number 4 player on this list was going to be.
Okay.
I think the division in the league is better when Byron Buxton's healthy, so I hope he can stay.
I agree with that. He is a fun player to watch. All right. We're going to move into our rank number 3. We had votes for Ramirez, Skubal, Ramirez,
Uh-oh.
and Ramirez. Dan, the main man, the extension, the face of Cleveland, number 3. What are your thoughts?
This feels fair. I did have him number 2, but this feels fair.
Not going to go out with fire? Nothing?
Nah,
Wow.
it feels fair. He's number 2 to me.
We're just not giving in to him.
He's number 2 to me. It's a tough argument to make. Skubal's been the second best pitcher in baseball for multiple years at this point. I think Ramirez has been, at this point, consistently the third best position player in the league for half a decade. So that would be my argument for him. Because I think that's true. Besides Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, and now I think you can make the case for the guy who's probably going to be first on our list. But if you're talking more of a body of work and a consistency over a span of time, I don't think you can find another player outside of those two, Ohtani and Judge, that you could put up against Jose Ramirez at this point.
How many?
Yeah.
Can I, not to steal a question from you, Ty, how many years in a row has he been probably the third on this list? Pretend we've been doing this for 10 years. How many times is he above or below this number 3? Or what's the lowest you think he goes down? Because that's going to because you have to remember a lot of names. But like, is he ever lower than third?
Probably not. I don't think so.
Is that can anyone think of a name? Because Buxton comes to mind. Like, I don't think Buxton at his peak. I think had more elite tools than Ramirez, but Ramirez has just more tools, or does more things well. Where the things Buxton doesn't do well, like.
This is the American League Central rundown, and we play within the division itself. But if you want to expand this out to the entire league, starting with 2020, Ramirez was second in MVP voting. The next year was 6th. The next year was 4th. The next year was 10th. The next year was 5th. The next year was 3rd. He's been the top 10 in the entire league every year for the last 6 years. So for him to be 3rd or worse in the division any of those years, I think would be a difficult argument. So I'm going to say at least 6 years.
And I hate to sound like a broken record, but Dan, tell me why the age doesn't matter.
It hasn't yet. He has not slowed down in any form or fashion. His slash line last year was above his career averages. He stole more bases last year than any year of his career. Granted, bigger bases, I get all that. That's
Yeah.
part of the calculus there. But there is, to this point, nothing in his metrics that would suggest that he has began to decline. And that can happen at any point in time. Father Time ultimately is undefeated, if you want to throw a cliche out there. But there's no evidence to this point that he will. So,
And he doesn't really fit a
I'll believe,
profile of a player that would just fall off, right?
no.
Okay.
For, this might be a lazy narrative, but I mentioned his work ethic earlier. Like, he sets the example in that clubhouse. And if Jose Ramirez is working that hard every day, you sure as heck better be. Like, and I say that one to kind of explain his leadership, but also, dude works really hard. So for him to fall off, um, it's not going to be because he wasn't trying to keep getting better.
And I think you mentioned he is signed through his age 40 season.
He'll be 40 when the contract ends. I don't know
when
if
it ends?
technically it's age 40
So I mean, this
season or
is
not.
this is Cleveland's second LeBron James, if you think about it.
I think you can make.
You
Well,
might
I'm
see
not
him
going
in
to
the
open that
clubhouse
can.
before the game, just covered in ice and all that.
I'm not going to open that can of worms about LeBron and Jose Ramirez and all that. But
No
only
worries.
one of those guys decided they wanted to spend their entire career in this city, and it's really appreciated.
I
The other one's
apologize
great
for
and
pulling that
did
Band-Aid
something.
off.
The other one's great and did something that hasn't happened in this city in half a century. So I'm not taking that away from him. He's an incredible basketball player. But um, I hope Jose gets as much recognition in the city as he deserves. And I think he gets a lot, but I could make the argument he deserves even more than he gets.
Agreed. Any other thoughts on Ramirez before we move to our number 2 pick?
I think if I had to pick a tool, and Dan, maybe you can answer this. If I had to pick a tool that's going to probably leave him first, it's probably going to be the power, which to me
You
is
think
more
so?
reassuring because like his bat speed's already 29th percentile. It's hard to hit 30 home runs with that bat speed. But I almost kind of wonder his sprint speed would probably be the one everyone would think of. I don't think that's going to slow him down for stolen bases a lot because I think he's stealing off of the pitcher, not because
Timing,
of his speed.
100%.
He's a very cerebral base runner, so I'm with you on that. We've talked about that guys like that steal even though they're not fast. Agreed.
Yeah. Alrighty.
So annoying.
Oh,
I think
sorry.
it might be the glove.
hate being on the
By the way.
Guardians.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Lee. What was that?
I hate him being on the Guardians because he's so cool, but he has to play for the worst team in existence. It's obnoxious. It's fucking annoying to play again.
I just want to call out, like, you say that, Lee, and it's like, as a White Sox fan, it's just like, I'd actually, like, when you look at players I wouldn't want to face, I'd put Josh Naylor before Jose. He's still scary, but he's not Josh Naylor, so I don't know.
No,
Too many bad
Tigers
memories.
fans fucking hate this guy. It's the general agreement has been for the past couple of years has started to be, why don't we just walk him every time?
True.
Because it seems
I don't understand why teams don't walk him more. I genuinely don't.
Well, to be fair,
Tigers have
he
walked
stole
a lot.
44 bases last year, so he's gonna get. It's basically like hitting a double.
Double, yep.
Yeah,
Regardless.
there was one game in 2024, Dan. I don't know if you remember this. It was a regular season game, but AJ Hinch intentionally walked him 3 times in one game, and it was like a really big deal at the time.
Yeah.
Like we do it sometimes, but like every time he hits a home run or like hits with runners in scoring position, it's just why don't we just walk him? Because I'm so sick of this guy. If there's someone on second, just walk him.
If Manzardo isn't the hitter behind him in the order, why don't people walk him? You really think Jonathan Rodriguez is going to get a single and drive him in from second? I don't. Sorry. Anyway,
This is where I think your argument comes back, Dan, of getting that one free agent that might be just a little bit better than that
Yes.
younger kid on your team to put him behind Ramirez. Like, just to add that extra, like, you can't really pitch around him because the next guy is decent. I don't know. Just a thought.
yeah, I agree with that. I think you could. I'd be happy to have Chase DeLauder or George Valero hit behind him, especially DeLauder. DeLauder might be the real deal someday, but there's more dependability with him.
Or Noel,
for sure.
Sorry.
Oh.
No. I don't
All
feel.
right.
I like Noel, but not to that extent.
All right, so we're moving to our number 2 rank for the AL Central rundown. I could just flip the slide, but I'm genuinely curious. I'd really love to hear at least a snippet, a sentence, something that tells me why you picked your number 2. What was the justification before I flip over? Eric, would you like to start? Anything.
When you are the either second or best pitcher in the world, it's really hard, even as someone who doesn't value individual starting pitchers as much as position players, to argue about when you are truly elite. It's really hard not to say you're top 3.
Dan?
I had him third, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask about
Interesting.
this. But I will say, I was afraid if I didn't put him in my top 5, he'd show up in my room and throw a fastball at my face at 99 miles an hour. So he has a history of doing that kind of thing, you know. No, he's like Eric said, he's the second best pitcher in the league. Period. He's the third, in my opinion, the third most important player in the league. He's most impactful. Period. So I think it's that straightforward.
Lee, what are your thoughts?
He's just that good. When you have a pitcher be that good, you can't put him lower than. I mean, it's just he doesn't play every game, but the games he does play, he controls. He controls 20% of the games in entirety.
Sam?
He was the last one left not named Bobby Witt Jr.
I don't even need to add anything. Look, this page blew me away. I don't dabble in Savant a whole lot, but my goodness,
It's a lot of red.
what really
Can I
does
offer-
surprise me,
I
I
offer one
had him
criticism?
first because when you I understand Bobby Witt. He brings himself every day. He had a amazing WAR. He's a great player for a great organization that anyone would want. But Skubal is just
A monster.
I mean, what do you compare? Like, who is a pitcher that you compare him to? Because if it is, it's a Hall of Famer. Which yes, Bobby Witt's going to be a Hall of Famer too. But he can't. He has 4 at bats and he fields. And to me, a starting pitcher deserves to be higher because of what he brings to that game. And I think Lee, I think we're on the same page. I mean, your justification was still 2, but if you are a pitcher and you can control the game the way Skubal does, the way that you can pitch him twice in a playoff series, and they did, and they won. Bobby Witt didn't do that. That's my argument. Thoughts?
Can I levy one criticism? This gentleman has never thrown 200 innings in a season. I think if there's one
throws
play,
200 anymore.
200 innings.
Logan
He didn't have
Webb?
an injury here at the end of in the middle of September.
True.
he did. And the point I'm trying to make is if there's one place I think Skubal could get better, it's that he could pitch into the 7th inning and the 8th inning more.
Yep.
I think that's not all on him. I think his manager needs to be comfortable with that as well. But I do think maybe I'm just kind of in an old school way of thought on this, but I think if you really want to be, when I think of an ace, I think of a guy that does that routinely. That's all. But he's pitch for pitch, he's the second best pitcher in the league.
No, yeah, I don't disagree with you about being able to go longer. That is kind of a thing. I think that the thing is, he doesn't hold himself back. He puts 110% in for 6 innings. He's not going to hold back to stay in an extra inning and a half. Is kind of the problem. Like in Game 5 of the ALDS last season, he got pulled at 99 pitches after 6 innings, and he got a lot of criticism about it. There's a whole bunch of talk about that since, because the next inning we give up a run and we go on to lose and blah blah blah. But both him and AJ have said he was gassed after the end of the 5th inning. He was like, "Yeah, that next inning is my last." Because he throws 101 routinely, He now has the record for the fastest pitch in the ninth inning by a starter. He hit 103 miles per hour. That's insane. As the last pitch in the ninth inning, that's insane. For a couple months, he was putting on walk to strikeout rates that were insane to a level that we have never seen. I think it was something like 90 strikeouts to 2 walks. That is ridiculous. That should not be able to happen. He is just in complete control, and he will let you know it.
The one thing I do want to also point out about Scooble, not only one, when you look at the last 3 seasons, yes, 2023 he had less innings pitched, but he's just getting better every year. So it's very interesting to see what he continues to do this year. And also, I had no idea he was a 9th round pick. That is crazy. There was one other comment.
Yeah, Tigers had the 1-1 pick and got the best pitcher in the draft in the 9th round.
Nuts. Any other closing thoughts on Scooble before we move to number 1?
The only thing about Scooble that I would criticize is he pitched 2 games in the division series in 2025 against the Seattle Mariners, and the Tigers lost both games.
That's not on Scooble, though.
He lost to Jorge Polanco, though. Let's be real.
As we want to say he's in control of the game, and he's this and he's that and blah blah blah. Well, one team went to the ALCS and the other team didn't.
How many runs did he give up in those 2 appearances?
Apparently one too many.
Was it 0-sum game, Lee?
Did he give up 2 home runs?
I don't agree with that at all,
Stan. Jorge Polanco, weren't they? The home runs?
2 of them were home runs to solo home runs to Jorge fucking Polanco. So
exactly, he gave up 2 solo home runs to Jorge Polanco.
We can't pretend Jorge Polanco is a solid player. I understand, Sam, the point you're trying to make. But
he's not Josh Naylor.
Up to the plate.
Let's be real. Like, I would have been I'm more surprised that it was Jorge Polanco and not Josh Naylor. I don't know.
Also, those home runs made Polanco at least a couple extra $1 million in free agency this year. True. By the way, I'm certain of that.
But all right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
The only run Scooble gave up in the divisional series was against Jorge Polanco. He gave up none in Game 5, and it was just the 2 home runs.
Sam, is there a pitcher you would rather have started those 2 games in this league? Who started those games for the Mariners? Would you have rather started those guys?
No, I wouldn't. But the Mariners won the game.
True.
Yeah, they won the Game 5 because we had Tommy Kahnle coming out in inning 15. We just ran out of fucking pitchers.
I understand that. But we could use the same logic of how many quarterbacks would you rather have in the NFL over Sam Darnold? Well, Sam Darnold's in the Super Bowl.
I'll still stick with Caleb Williams.
You use the information that's at your fingertips at the time you make the best decision you can. I don't think anybody would challenge the fact that Scooble. Nobody would pick anybody other than Tarek Scooble to start those games.
All right. On that note,
his great 2.5 years.
His performance this postseason and the results of that performance is a red mark on his report card.
How are they a red
Move
mark?
on to all right. No. Move on to Bobby Witt.
Now all right. And with that,
Lee here.
Our number 1.
We're not doing no.
Is Bobby Witt Jr. Sam, what do you have to say about Bobby Witt being the AL Central Rundown's number 1 player right now in the MLB? Or in AL Central, sorry. In the MLB. Either way.
We could talk about how Star Wars is a really good movie, but we don't need to talk about how Star Wars is a really good movie because everyone knows that Star Wars is a really good movie. In the same way, we could talk about how great Bobby Witt Jr. is. We could talk about his skills with the bat, with the glove, on the bases, and so on. But everyone knows how great those skills are, and what a good player he is. So I think this ranking speaks for itself.
Did anyone have him lower than 1?
Hello.
Ty, what'd you have? 2?
I had him as 2.
You had
I had
Scooble one,
I
right?
think Scooble and the pitcher being able to, once again, Bobby Witt is not going to win you 2 playoff games.
Right.
But
I
Well,
do wonder,
but
Sam.
Scooble didn't win them 2 playoff games. So what do I know?
So Sam, I mean, for your argument in
I know where this
postseason
is going.
well,
I looked
Bobby
up the same
Witt Jr.
thing, Lee.
a career 192 batting average and a 415 OPS. Is that a red mark on his stats and his career? How many players would you rather have start in a playoff game than Bobby Witt Jr.?
Now, the number one, Lee. First of all, Bobby Witt Jr. I did not say anything about how he commands the game and that he's in charge and 20% of the games are controlled by him, and we all know it. Okay,
Because we know that this is false. I mean, because he doesn't. He makes what, 4 appearances in a game, and then
yeah, of course, that's true.
well, plus
But
defense.
the biggest problem that Bobby Witt Jr. has is the same problem that Tarek Skubal has, and that is that they play in the AL Central for teams who are not teams that are going to likely be making the World Series.
Who do we think is more likely to win a World Series at some point? Bobby Witt Jr. or Tarek Skubal? I think it's
Tarek
Skubal, because he's
because
going to
gonna be
Los
traded to
Angeles.
the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to get $500 million from the fucking Dodgers.
Here's your billion. Walk away.
When is Bobby Witt's player opt out? Like 2029 or something like that?
It's something like that.
Yeah. I mean, he'll be 29, so like he could in theory do that, but I think Skubal is probably the answer.
I will say it's scary that he's 25 and he has these numbers already. This is crazy. Any thoughts on anyone disagree with the number 1 pick for Bobby Witt here other than myself?
Who was the number 1 pick in 2019? Does anyone remember?
Rushman.
Look that up quick, because
It was Rushman was the number 1 pick in 2019.
Okay.
Well, one thing I want to mention about Witt to the positive is I think it's easy to not recognize just how good he is defensively. I mean, look at the sheet here. Outs above average, 100th percentile at the second most important defensive position. I think catcher, you'd argue, is more, but like of the kind of like the more standard positions, that really racks up the WAR for him, is how good he is there defensively. And I'll be honest, I wanted to try to find a way to put Jose Ramirez number 1, and ultimately I couldn't because I thought I'm sorry, not Skubal. I thought Witt was just the gap in WAR, which is too high, and I couldn't bring myself to. I wanted to at least be an intellectual argument, and I couldn't make an intellectual.
Not letting your bias affect you. Way to be, Dan.
Exactly. I was willing to let my bias lead me a little bit, but I couldn't. There's no way we're getting there. Sorry, guy. I'm glad I went down. I checked every rock, but I couldn't do it. I will say, just to kind of pile on to what Lee was saying, Bobby Witt's hitting 121 in his career against Tarek Skubal, for what it's worth. So
funny.
I still put Witt 1, but I think to kind of make this a little more wholesome, I think we've gotten a little bit angry with each other over the last 10 minutes. There are at least four very phenomenal players in this division that we get the privilege of watching on a daily basis. And I think we should appreciate that, genuinely. And I don't think
because
that
hasn't always been the case historically.
No, it hasn't.
Well, my point being, I don't need to preface that with for the AL Central. These are four really good players that any team would be happy to have. And I don't know, I disagree with Sam. I think this division can win World Series, genuinely. So,
and I just want to add, I know it doesn't mean anything, but if you put the best players from the AL Central together and you pit them against the Dodgers, I think we got a chance, man.
Oh, they would destroy. Yes, if you combine the best of 4 organizations, yes, they will beat the Dodgers pretty soundly.
You're gonna regroup them in
It
the
would be
aggregate.
close. It wouldn't be a blowout.
I mean, the Dodgers
that.
are a super team. I'm not gonna try. Like, I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. But like,
You know what? That's pretty good because if we combined our TV contracts, I bet we wouldn't get the $330
yeah, like a third of it.
just by virtue of the
Yeah.
fact they have more people living in their city. Like, rant over, sorry, but
I love it.
there's nothing material that they do better that gives them that money. I'm done.
With that is the AL Central rundown, top 25 players right now. Honestly, I love the list. I love doing this exercise, and I really appreciate all the justification. Actually, less arguing than I was expected, but very interested to see how this turns out next year. Eric, back to you.
Yeah, I think the argument would have been like if Bobby Witt wasn't like if any movement in the top 3, like if Bobby Witt wasn't one, I feel like that's when the Fangs would have came out.
Also, just a note, sorry, number 1 and number 3 are staying in our division for a relatively long time.
And
That's
4.
interesting.
Number 2,
and
not so
4.
much.
And 4.
Yeah,
So
number
only-
2 is I mean, he will not be on this list next year.
What if the White Sox signed Scooble?
We got one more year out of
Dude,
them.
that'd be awesome. I'd love to see that. I really would.
Oh, you can all suck
Anyway.
it.
Sorry.
But it'll be after the Tigers win the World Series.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so
With
all right,
Tarek Skubal on the mound.
that's right. In the
He doesn't
15th inning,
pitch
just
plus
despite
the six. That's
Sam.
not happening.
So I think with that, we've gone over the 2-hour mark, so we should probably wrap this up. But yeah, that was fun. I think next week is the last week before baseball. Well, pitchers and catchers, we can see, pitchers soft tossing to their battery mate for about a week before players start.
PFPs.
Yeah, PFPs, that's right. All the bunting and all the fungo bats for everyone. So with that, thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you guys next week.